fatal heart impacts, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse, I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet now. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, whenever we last left off, we were talking about what was going on with Class 1A, the survivors of the USJ incident. Now, one of those survivors has gone missing, and have yet to be found. As for the other ones, well, they are somewhat accounted for, as we do have Momo and Ochako along with Bakugo. These three are still publicly known to be alive and safe as far as everyone is regarded. Now, aware basically. Now, with that being said, it has been a little bit of time since everything. Now, we will cut to around past the internship arc, and past where the original summer camp arc would be. So, I would say about possibly 3 to 4 months. I'm not sure exactly how long those arcs would be exactly. However, a very small time skip is in order. And we actually do have Izuki, the Winter Soldier, and a few more for allies, as they are all actually walking around. And Izuki, her, Shinsho, and Monoma are all actually talking, as they are organizing a little bit of things. And they themselves have been able to get a proper crew. Now, with that being said, we do actually have Izuki, who does actually state that she's going to be going out to meet a buyer, and that she will be back soon. Her walking over and actually getting inside a very advanced looking plane, as it immediately just takes off. And they are able to leave. Now, after Izuki is dropped off somewhere outside the city, she drops, well, her motorcycle falls from the plane, and she actually does use a zip line to get down, as she quickly does detach the line from her bike, and the plane flies away. Her hopping on it, along with actually grabbing her motorcycle helmet and throwing it on top of her head, as she goes right into the city. Now, she does actually arrive within a building, and begin to talk with her people, or her contacts. And whenever she does actually arrive, she does notice something. They look to be a bit more concerned, and this does take Izuki by surprise, asking them exactly what's wrong. To which they would go on stating that you have to be more careful nowadays, asking Izuki if she was followed. To which she simply just states that no, she was not, and even if she was, she has backup, or people on her side. Now, with that, an exchange is actually beginning to go down, and they are explaining to Izuki that this is the latest hardware they do actually have, as they do actually toss down 3 bags, and actually take a few steps backwards. Izuki, her getting up, and off of her bike, walking over and beginning to inspect it, pulling a weapon out before just aiming and looking down sights, looking back at her dealers, and asking them if everything is in order, and if they have received their payment yet. The man seems responding with yes, and that everything should be fine, stating that for an additional 20,000, they can also throw in that car, and she wouldn't have to take it back on the bike. To which she does simply just respond that that will not be needed. To which a gunshot then does actually go off. Izuki, she just begins to look around, as someone does actually fly in within the ceiling, and land. Looking up as they immediately begin to open fire on everything going on. And they try to take out the weapon dealers. Them climbing back into their car and quickly beginning to drive off. Izuki actually ducking into cover, as the mysterious person does actually take two of the weapons bags that were left behind, and they pick them up. As our mysterious figure, they actually do begin to inspect their bags, and they can see exactly what they have acquired. The person is simply just beginning to smile, as somebody else does actually come down through the roof. And as soon as they do, Izuki does actually look out and see who it is. She cannot tell who they are. However, it's two people. One looks to be male, the other appears to be female. And this is quite interesting. Izuki immediately getting out of cover, as the two do actually begin to ascend the rope, shouting, "Hey," at both of them. Now, they quickly just throw the ropes down, Izuki not being able to get up, bringing up her wrist and firing her grappling hook. As she actually does begin to make her way up, flying through the top of the roof and simply just landing. As our two foes, they are currently running across the rooftops and trying to make sure that Izuki cannot follow them. Now, she does actually bring her hand up to her ear as she takes off running, talking about how she found them, some of the people that he was talking about. The deal worked out perfectly. Now, we actually do have Shinsho, who does ask her if she believes that this is what they need to do. As Izuki does continue stating, she wasn't around for very much, a couple months back, so they were both left weakened and somewhat fragile. However, she does believe that she knows who the Punisher is, along with, well, the other one, talking about how they're basically two of a kind. Now, she does actually begin to give chase, and it's quite astonishing. The two actually using a zip line and going across the street, before quickly just cutting the line. Now, as soon as that does actually happen, Izuki, who is still running, does actually see both of them. And she quickly just begins to look around, building up more and more speed, as she tries to leap across the streets. Now, this is actually quite surprising. Both these two watching as Izuki gets halfway across, before she goes lower and lower, smashing into the third-story window of a building, before she quickly does actually roll and land on a table, before being able to quickly stumble back to her feet as she just keeps running, smashing through another window and quickly just turning her wrist, firing into the wall as she does actually begin to make her way up. Grabbing onto her line, she then actually does swing her legs, and she's able to land on the top of the building. As soon as she actually does, she lands with her feet and then just throws her hands up, like a ballerina. Then, she does actually get into a combat stance. This shocking, well, the woman, who does actually ask what the hell was that? And Izuki, she simply just responds, they need to give up that weaponry, that gear. Now, This is quite interesting. The person in that mask asking Izuki if she even really knows what's going on. Of course I do. What of it? Hmm. Trust me. You don't know anything. After All Might, after everyone, there are no more real heroes left. There might be Endeavor, but what about everyone else? They're simply lost. Besides, the villains, the crime rate, we've seen them get away before. If we let it happen again, then it's just going to keep happening. There will be no real justice. Now, this is actually kind of interesting, as Izuki does actually say a name, asking if the man behind that mask is Katsuki Bakugo. And the man does actually get a bit more surprised, saying how the hell does she know his name? Her turning to the woman, and saying if that's the case then she must be Ochako Uraka. Now, she then does actually continue stating that the Punisher, or the Punishers, are actually beginning to get quite famous. She does not see herself as a hero, no. However, she does actually want to ask them if they want to get back at people, asking if they would like to simply try to get away from the vigilante business and become actual heroes, take on bigger threats. Now, Izuki is slowly taking steps forwards, and her plan is somewhat working, as she actually does bring her hand up and wipe away the sweat on her face, as she actually does take off the nano mask, stating that this thing is very sweaty. And she surprises Bakugo. However, at that very moment, she is hit by something, and it sends a very large voltage throughout her entire system. It struck her directly in the back of the neck, so her suit was not able to absorb most of it. And she immediately screamed out in pain, before falling forwards passing out. As we do have another person, our little friend who calls herself Madame Mask. Now, she suddenly just begins to ask these two if they're quite done. They need to continue their work. Now, this is quite interesting. And it does seem like they will be getting along well together. The person behind the mask simply just stating that these two need to hurry. They're going to be found soon. And if they don't keep up what they're doing, well then, things can get a whole lot more difficult. Then asking these two if they still do remember their promise. Now, it's quite interesting. And Izuki, she does actually watch as Bakugo, he does actually look down at her for a second, before he simply does actually bend down into a squat, looking down at her, asking her if she does remember everything that happened whenever All Might fell. Izuki, she simply just asks, what does he mean? To which Bakugo continues talking. All Might fell whenever real heroes stopped existing. He fought, and he wanted to prove that he could do anything. However, then there's all what happened. Everything they've done. Everything the villains have been doing. If they don't put a bullet in All For One's head, no one will. If they don't put a bullet between the corrupt, no one will. If they don't solve their problems with violence, the world cannot know peace. Before he does actually stand back up on his feet. And these three do actually begin to get away. Izuki passing out. Now, eventually somebody does actually come to find her, hearing her comms scramble and reappear basically. Before they actually do find Izuki and ask her if she made contact with their believed quote unquote allies. Izuki simply just stating yes, and she can confirm two of their identities. Now, she does actually go onto a comm link, or basically connect to a higher network, as she does actually begin to talk and brief certain people within their little group, and explain that two of their four targets have been identified. And, most likely, a lot more things will begin to happen. And, with the confirmed identity of Bakugo Katsuki and Ochaku Yuraka, they can at least make sure that the Punisher can be on their side. Seeing that this person, the Punisher, she considers to be family. And that if they are to capture him, detain him, do not kill, aim to stun. Telling her people that if they are able to do all that, then they can actually get somewhere. Then they might get actually a bit more closer to finding out what happened. And then there also is Madame Mask, the strange vigilante. One day she just randomly surfaced, and most people didn't even believe her to be a vigilante. She seemed to be looking for something, looking for tech, looking for information. And a lot more things begin to occur. Even then, who is she? What is she actually trying to seek out? What is she trying to get answers to? Now, as to how we got here, it was a bit more complicated. Now, let us see. Around the time of the sports festival, this is whenever everything began to fall into more places. The man that Bakugo attacked and almost killed, he, well, what's the best way to say it? He went on trial, and they found that he was wrongfully convicted. A series of mistaken identity. That couldn't have been possible. Bakugo caught him red-handed. He knew the man's face. Even then, the man, he shouldn't have gotten off on his charges. And he actually did hear two cops talking about what happened. One cop talking about how they received a large anonymous donation, and another one actually asking if they got it too. Another cop actually somewhat laughing, and stating that yeah, he got it too. Now, Bakugo, he did actually listen into some of these cops, while he was simply just sitting there. His earbuds were in, but he was not playing music. He heard this conversation and wanted to know how it ended, and the cops just kept talking. They thought that he could not hear them, and it pissed him off, hearing everything they're talking about. They let the guy off because somebody paid them. That pissed him off. And later that night, Bakugo did confront the cop. That he did see. Whenever he did actually try and ask the police officer a few questions, him and his partner did begin to get a bit more feisty. And they did want to charge Bakugo with something. However, it was only after they assaulted Bakugo that he began to fight back and use self-defense. Now, the very moment that did actually happen, Bakugo was almost shot, and he was forced to use his quirk. Now, Bakugo, so full of rage, hate, and anger, he accidentally overdid it, and he killed these two corrupt cops. Before, he didn't just run off. He didn't know what to do. He tried to think it through. He tried to do anything he could. And he ran off, like a scared child. However, there was what happened the next day. These cops, they were called heroes. They were not that. They were villains. He knew that, and it pissed him off more. And Bakugo, he began to go on a bit of a vigilante streak. Eventually, the person he was closest to, Ochako at the time, she did begin to find out. However, she did understand. And she knew what Bakugo was talking about. The guy who got off. He was then later found killed. That's weird. Especially because it wasn't Bakugo who did it. So, the people this guy worked for, they knew he would talk. And they knew that someone might be after him. So they took their own precautions. Now, with that being said, we also do have, well, how Ochako got involved in all this. Her family was still struggling, and so was she. Whenever she began to help Bakugo, she found that it started to clear her mind, take her thoughts elsewhere, and she began to understand it. She felt that very same rage and fire within herself. And after about sometime around All Might fell, she couldn't take it. She let anything in front of her burn, and she began to help. Eventually, things got more serious, and she killed somebody. However, she understood what was going on. This, well, this isn't war. It's hell. In war, there are innocent people. Everyone's a bystander. However, in hell, there are no innocents. There are only the guilty. And Bakugo made sure she knew that. And she began to understand. She even began to listen to Stain, his ideology about false heroes, and killing them. That she didn't agree with. There are false heroes, yes, but it isn't their fault. It's the very society that created them. It's not their fault. It's everything they have been taught. You cannot change the person. You have to change the system. Change the way the game is played. And more people begin to understand. Not just these two. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And have an amazing night. I will catch you guys in the next part.